we got Phil Megatron Hawes, who is a minus 280 favorite with the plus 230 comeback for DERON WINN, man. Now, DERON WINN, small guy, 5'6", 70-inch reach, man. He's very small for the welterweight division, or for the middleweight division, excuse me. But do not let that fool you, man, because he is sweeping people much larger than him, man. He's throwing you on your head. This is a man who's coming, he's more or less a prodigy of Daniel Cormier, right? Fighting out of AKA, American Kickboxing Academy. Now, Phil Hawes, listen, he's a Sanford MMA product, but I think in his last fight, he spent a little time at Tiger Muay Thai getting that Muay Thai kickboxing kind of going for him. So we're seeing a different animal for Phil Hawes, and for DERON WINN, we know what the man is capable of. My question to you, AJ, is do you ever think that these dudes, the Phil Hawes, Gerald Meerschaert, he beat DERON WINN, but a couple of these guys, Antonio Arroyo, right? Do you think they're looking at DERON WINN being like, this little guy, like, come on, man, that's lying. He ain't gonna do nothing against me, man. Do you think psychologically there truly is some of that going into it, where they're maybe discounting DERON WINN based on his size alone?
Oh, 100%, man. You almost have to. And he's a little thicker as well, man. He like you said it correctly, Derek. He takes that Daniel Cormier approach. He really is an AK Daniel Cormier prodigy. He almost took the reins once he left, not necessarily in the gym, but but more so in the style and how he doesn't really cut. He does actually cut a little bit of weight, because in his last fight against Antonio Arroyo, they were like 196, 195. So DERON WINN's cutting down. But yeah, 5'6". There has to be something when you look at a small man like that. I'm only 5'9", so even if I was squaring up against a 5'6" dude, I'd be thinking the same thing. Like, look at this little guy. What's up, man? Yeah. So I can only imagine Phil Hawes, 6 foot. That's a whole 6-inch difference right there. It counts, man. And I don't think it actually has the same effect going opposite, though. I don't think DERON WINN has that kind of short man insecurity going forward. I think he's solid on the ground, and he works his style very well to be able to match his height going forward. What do you think?
Dude, absolutely. Look at the last 3 people he's fought. Antonio Arroyo, I believe he's 6 foot, if not taller. Gerald Meerschaert, 6 foot, if not taller. Darren Stewart, 6 foot, if not taller. Like he like, for these type of guys, for Daniel Cormier, I think he said it himself too. He was like, almost everybody I fought has been bigger and taller and longer than me. But that's not a problem, because guess what this dude's game plan is? It's wrestling. So let's talk about the wrestling here, AJ. Phil Hawes is a very experienced wrestler, very, very good wrestler. We already know that about him. He had a very epic match against Kyle Dawkins in their last fight, where they were going back and forth, taking each other down. And one thing that we know, this is a given across the board for wrestlers. Wrestlers love putting people on their back, but they hate being put on their back. So the question becomes, who is better off of their back, Phil Hawes or DERON WINN? Because it's interesting. Both of them don't like to be on their back, in all honesty, man. So I think whoever gets the top control and who can maintain the top control is going to win this fight. Who do you think that lends to a little bit more, AJ?
That's a good question, because I haven't really seen either of them on their back too much have to work,
Exactly.
Have to actually get up and get it going. I'd probably say Phil Hawes, just because of the length he has. He's able to throw the hips up, get the feet going, kind of work something if he can, or even just kind of shrimp out and get up on the fence. But I don't discount DERON WINN, man. He's very sneaky. He's very, very sneaky on the ground game. But I'd go Phil Hawes. What about you?
Well, you know what? I think it's tough, and I'm kind of going DERON WINN here. And the reason why is because I think that there is a how would you put it? I think that for DERON WINN, the explosiveness of being shorter, and you know what I mean? You're wider, you're shorter, and you can blast up on those hips. It's going to be harder to get to his hips as well, man. So I think there's going to be a little of that edge right there for DERON WINN. However, Phil Hawes is just a big man. And that's the thing that has made me go back and forth on this. I'm like, Phil Hawes is so large of a human being. You know what I mean? Is he going to be able to just smother DERON WINN? But then again, Gerald Meerschaert, right? He wasn't able to do that. The only thing he was able to do is hurt DERON WINN and then lock him up with the submission after. But just based on wrestling alone, if he couldn't do it, I mean, come on, man. This is Gerald Meerschaert. This is a dude who's a legend, who's a great grappler. Let's talk about stand-up, though, man, because DERON WINN is sometimes susceptible to saying, like, fuck it, we're not going to wrestle. Let's just stand and bang. He did that for almost 3 rounds against Meerschaert. So Phil Hawes, man, improved striking. Like I said, Tiger Muay Thai, he just did that camp and all that. But DERON WINN, I think he has a speed advantage here, man. This dude has thunderous hooks. Thunderous hooks, man. And because he's so small, and don't get me, like, no disrespect, I'm not saying it like that, but being a smaller person, you have a smaller target for Phil Hawes to be able to hit. Hawes likes to beat up the body a little bit, go for the big hooks. I think DERON WINN is going to be able to outpace him a little bit in that speed, and the cardio is going to become a question for both of these fighters. So tell me what you think about the feet, and who do you think is going to have the better cardio if this is a wrestling and striking intensive matchup?
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely think both of those go to DERON WIN. But Phil Hawes, his cardio has been improving, man. He has one hell of a gas tank. We saw it in the Kyle Dawkins fight all the way into the third round. And maybe it's because I'm a biased Dawkins fan, but I thought the only round he won was round 3, and he really started to put it on Kyle. And you could kind of see the mentality change. But with all those muscles, I feel like I always write for Phil Hawes. My first comment is thick with like 5 C's because homeboy is massive. He has so much muscle on him, but it doesn't really affect his gas tank. It's one of the crazy things, man. He stays powerful through the entire fight. But DERON WIN, he has this crazy way of finding situations that work very well for him. We saw it in the I'm gonna call him the DC fight. You know, we're always comparing this dude to DC, but when DC knocked out Stipe, it was one of those short hooks that just come right across the chin when you're not expecting it in the break, in the exchange, and that's where DERON WIN shines, man. And I really do think this guy, he's working hard at AKA. His cardio's on point, and being a little bit smaller of a fighter, he doesn't have as much to expend. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have as much muscle mass. He doesn't have as much distance to have to cut. Well, I guess he has more distance to cover, but not as much length on the limbs to be able to have to work it harder, if that makes sense. So I'm giving both of those to DERON WIN, man.
Yeah, man, I'd have to agree with you right there. And what's interesting is when we're talking about takedown average per 15 minutes, we got about almost 3 for Phil Hawes at about 40%, and almost 5 for DERON WIN at 50+%. So that's going to be interesting. However, when we're talking about takedown defense, DERON WIN has 0% takedown defense in the UFC, which is really interesting to me. I don't really know how that works because you don't really see him getting put on his butt too often, right? And if he does, it's for him to be able to kind of like reverse the position and then get on top. For Phil Hawes, he has 100% takedown defense. So that's the question. Like you said, AJ, you're like, I haven't really seen the man on his back. Well, for good reason, right? That's just the big question that it comes down to me, man. Both of these dudes are 32 years old, man. Both of these dudes are in spots where they probably both need a big win. I mean, Phil Hawes, if we're looking at UFC record, he's 3-0. DERON WIN is 2-2. So Win probably needs the win, no pun intended. Win needs the win more than Phil Hawes. But when we're talking about notable wins, AJ, Kyle Dawkins and Nasruddin Imavov are actually the only 2 decision wins for Phil Hawes in his last 5. The other ones have been knockout round 1, TKO round 1, TKO round 1, man. So that's where we want to, I just want to like kind of frame it like that, right? So this dude is now coming into his own. He even said it in a post-fight presser after one of them. He's like, yeah, man, I don't want to just be knocking these dudes out. I want to show that I can go all 3 rounds. For DERON WIN, that's never really an issue, man. He's basically he got 3 decision wins in his entire career, 4 knockouts, no submissions. I mean, the dude can get it done over 3 rounds, man. We've seen it time and time again. So ultimately, AJ, let's give our picks on this one, man. Who are you going with? Are you going with the Phil Hawes, who's on a 7-fight win streak, or DERON WIN, who just got a bounce-back win after his loss to GM3? Who are you going with?
Man, I'm going with Hawes, and I'm going Hawes by decision. I think this one's going to be a grinder of a match. We have 2 dudes who, you know, like we said already, can wrestle like the best of anybody out there in the game right now can. But we might see that when fire faces fire, it kind of nullifies each other, and we might see a standing battle, which I give the advantage to in Hawes on that one, at least for the power. DERON WIN has the speed, but what I like about Hawes, he has really good composure. We were seeing it in the Dawkins fight that he's able to weather the storm, keep a solid chin, and he has a granite chin out there in Phil Hawes. And it might just be because he beat my boy Kyle Dawkins, so I'm going to have to go with Phil Hawes on this one by decision. Who you got and why?
Okay, right on, man. So I was really going back and forth. This was like a coin toss to me, regardless of the very skewed odds, right? I mean, look, DERON WIN at plus 230, Hawes at minus 280. But this was a coin flip to me because I think Hawes can really hurt Win on the feet if he's able to keep him behind that long jab. Like, Hawes has a really good jab when he uses it. But the speed advantage for DERON WIN, the ability to grab Hawes and flip him on his head, even though he's a bigger man, I think it's all there for DERON WIN, man. I just think there's something about DERON WIN that is constantly discounted when it shouldn't be, and I think partially it's due to the visual optics of, oh, this little guy is going to beat the big muscle guy in Phil Hawes. You can't look at fights like that. That's not what makes a fight. You can have all the muscles in the world and get your ass knocked the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes. So I'm going to take a shot here, man, and I don't feel super confident about it, but I do think there's a little something in the value to be had at plus 230. And yeah, folks, we need to look at whatever the prop is for this fight going all 3 rounds, because I do think that there's a very good likelihood of this going the distance. So I'm going to go DERON WIN via decision. I think it's going to be a grinder matchup, and it's probably going to go, winner is going to go 2-1. You know, it's going to be 2 rounds to 1. I don't think it's going to be a shutout. by any stretch of the imagination. But all right, AJ, we can move on to the next one.